What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Billy Collins.
MATJ.
And this is Magician.
And the Jock.
Guys, today we have our first father or daughter than father combo on the
It's
channel.
like the dance.
Family reunion.
Yeah, it's like,
we're bringing families together.
We just got everybody in at one time. They're in.
This is Megan Gravley's estranged father, who came back into her life since she blew up by coming on the channel.
Yeah.
He saw some
He
dollar
saw her and
signs.
said, you know what? I need to go.
Yeah,
I was jealous. I'm like, where's my airtime?
He's like Macaulay Culkin's parents, man. He's back. But now, Megan, who was on the show, who we think a lot of.
Yeah, great job.
She had mentioned you before because you've been involved in sports. And I knew you were involved in sports in some capacity. And said you were coming down. I'm like, you think you would want to come on the show? And he was like, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. No. But no, you say you have been around creating content forever, and we're adamant. You know, we have kind of a catchphrase that I took from Earl Nightingale, which was stop competing, start creating. You know, and you know, your life has kind of been based around that. So maybe just kind of talk about where you're from and all that good stuff, and you got some really, really interesting stories.
Well, I have an Oxford degree. I do.
Is that an online college?
No, it was Oxford, North Carolina.
Nice. Nice.
People have a conversation.
Population of 10.
Exactly. I tell people that, well, you know, I studied at Oxford.
Right.
And then after about a conversation that lasts 5 minutes, they're like, yeah, right.
Can you spell Oxford?
Yeah.
That's the litmus test.
I can. I can. Small town, just 40 miles north of Raleigh. So I grew up in North Carolina and, you know, played a lot of sports, loved sports, and it was just one of those things that evolved into a career.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all reach our expiration date on when we can still play sports, or we run out of time or run out of talent.
My expiration date was birth.
No. No sports?
I played until my senior year.
You were like
I
the
played
milk.
football and baseball.
You were like the milk your mom brought home for groceries that forgot you just left in the trunk. And you're like, oh no, damn it! Or the ice cream's melting. Yeah, no, that's funny. You know, I think Bill Burr said something about that. He's like, it's a weird part in your life because the professional athletes who are retiring, you're older than they are. So it's like, in a weird way, my professional athlete dreams are done, even though he never was going to play. But, you know, you kind of gauge who's based on, you know, everyone in the league and stuff I always considered older.
Right.
And now they're like, he's washed up. He's 27. I'm like, what? What am I?
At my age, I'm looking at the coach. Yeah, he's 32 years old. I'm like, shit.
It's like 32. He's
I was
past his
at least
prime.
looking forward to the
I mean,
coach.
eventually Tom Brady will run out of time. He's not going to run out of talent. So you either run out of time, which, you know, your career is called for you because, you know, you're aged out, or you run out of talent because you either have talent for middle school, high school, college, and professional, or, you know, on either level. So, you know, I use that a lot, that you all run out of time or talent one way or another eventually in athletics.
And so you were you played everything, but baseball was your...
I really thought that I was going to be a college football player. I wanted to play quarterback in college, and I was recruited my junior year to play quarterback. We threw the ball all over the lot. And then my senior year, we changed coaches. Yep.
School, okay.
We changed coaches and went to a run attack. And so, you know, my swift feet.
Dive left, dive right.
That's exactly right. Fullback dive, run the option out of the veer, run the wishbone, and we didn't throw it as much. But listen, I was too slow to play in college anyway, football-wise. So I was like, well, let's try baseball. And so I left Webb and went to East Carolina and tried to walk on there. And
Pirates, baby.
People say, well, you don't care about the Pirates. Well, I was there for a full year.
What the hell?
I was there for a full year. I was in 253 ACOC.
Oh, there you go.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I went to all the football games, even went to Minges Coliseum to watch some basketball games, and, of course, went to watch some baseball. But I went there to walk on and didn't make it. It was back in the old days when they actually put a list up. The following people have made the team. It wasn't on your phone. It wasn't on an app.
What was that movie, The Program? With wasn't there a movie called The Program where he's like, starting defense, and like pushes his head through the window after he saw that list?
So my name was not on the list. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I went to ECU to go into sports medicine. And they have a weed out program that worked.
Yeah, that's right.
It weeded me out. So what it was Sunday laundry during football season. So you go in there on Sunday, and you have these massive baskets of Jocks, socks, and Ace bandages. Now imagine all of those rolling around in a washing machine, and when they come out, how tangled they are. So then you have to untangle them and put them in the dryer, and then have to untangle them again after they come out of the dryer. One Sunday of that, I was done.
Yeah.
They weeded me out. I'm done. I was like,
I'm exhausted just hearing.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah, it was just a spaghetti junction, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I didn't make the baseball team. I'm not going into sports medicine, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to transfer to the school that I grew up watching, NC State.
A team that'll take anybody, NC State.
Well, exactly right. They did. But I remember sitting on my bed in 1974 watching the national championship with David Thompson in a little black and white television, and I'm like, it would be great if I could go there. So I went there and tried out for the baseball team there and made it. But didn't pitch, never played, never made the travel roster. But for 2 years, I was a part of a team.
Yeah.
And, Matt, you understand that concept, and it was something that
I played. What the hell?
Well, I know. But you
made the travel team.
He was a punter.
I was one step above the guy handing out towels.
Oh, by the way, Matt, I did punt in high school, too. Did you ever get a personal foul as a punter?
No, I did shank it off my foot a couple times. I should have.
It's okay.
No, we were playing.
A late hit?
Oh, look, we were playing at Burlington Williams, and I make the punt, and there's that one guy who's right in your face. He's about 5'8", 195 pounds, and he's just hitting you, chucking you, all the way down the field. And finally, I just went boom, slugged him, and unfortunately, the referee saw it and threw the flag. So.
I thought that was back in the day when you could just do whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the NFL films, man, they're like clotheslining people. And
the Jack Lamberts is uppercutting.
Oh, the Jack Tatums, my God.
Butkus and
yeah, so I really wanted, when I came on the show and got the invite, I had to ask, I wonder if Matt ever got a personal foul as a punter.
Maybe a late hit. But no, I was trying to avoid contact.
That's true.
I wanted to feel good. I remember we were playing.
Did you ever get penalized at all?
I don't think so. No. I remember that we were playing Baltimore in the preseason, and that's a scary time to be playing because people are trying to make a team.
Well, that's a good point.
And I hit a good punt, and you play contain, right? For a punter and a kicker, the sideline makes more tackles than anything. You just try and force them out. That guy was like, he got tackled like 20 yards ahead of me, so I'm good. Dude, I got decleated. Like some guy hit me, and I landed like on the back of my head. But those don't hurt when you don't see him coming.
Right.
It's just... He's like, my bad, dog. I'm trying to make a team. Trying to make a team. I'm like, oh, you're cool, man. Thanks. Because somebody you got to keep your head on a swivel out there. Right.
I mean, does that go to say if you haven't? I mean, are you really playing if you haven't penalized somebody?
Means I have discipline, Billy, because I went to East Carolina. But
Wow.
anyways, NC State, clearly.
Wow.
But
So I tell people my career record at NC State as a pitcher, I never gave up a run, never gave up a hit, never walked anybody because I never freaking played.
Yep.
But, there are guys today that I still stay in touch with that were a part of that team.
It's a fraternity.
It is. Dan Plesac, who's on MLB Network, is there. Doug Strange, who's in the front office or used to be for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And, you have those relationships and you keep them forever. And that's the part that I valued the most is those kind of relationships. But I was on another list at NC State after my junior year.
Yeah.
Coach needs to see you. That's never good.
It's never to
Never
say,
good.
We love what you're doing.
That's exactly right. You've done speaking in the past, you've done a great job. You lost all the weight that we needed you to do. You threw batting practice whenever we needed you to, shagged fly balls or whatever, made all of your times and conditioning. But we think you probably ought to concentrate on what you might want to do in your career. So we're done with you. So appreciate everything and see you later. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like...
It's a quick conversation, too.
That's when you know the time is up.
I was going to say, that's father time.
That's it. You're done. So what do you do? And I said, okay, well, I'm interested in either coaching. I knew it wasn't sports medicine. And then I was like, maybe broadcasting. So I went across the street to WRAL, which is literally across the NC State campus. And I got an internship. And, one thing led to another. And an internship turned into a part-time job, and then to a full-time photography job, and then a full-time sports photography job, and then all of a sudden I started an opportunity to be a reporter. But I first had to go through all these voice lessons because, man, I'm telling you.
Megan was saying that.
Oh.
Like Forrest Gump back in the day.
It was
like
bad.
His voice.
My mom had a cassette tape a couple of weeks ago. It was a youth pastor sermon that I did in 1981. And it was bad. I'm like, Mom, that's horrible. No wonder they wouldn't let me on the air.
He was that one guy off of Waterboy that's like, we need to play another day.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
If y'all really want to know.
Because I took a lot of acting classes for magic. Just, I'm from originally from South Carolina, so mine was deep.
Yeah.
And now if I get upset or if I talk real fast, it'll come back real quick.
Oh, I still
You have to be
speak Southernese.
Yeah.
There are certain words and phrases that I'll say that all of a sudden it's like, oh no, let's see if we can do this.
To see this kind of ability squandered by a bad attitude or negligence is sin indeed. But what a joy to observe the application of such ability for the betterment of a person's life.
My God.
That was some big words there.
I know,
That's not
right?
that bad.
That's standing in front of the Baptist church,
Yeah,
my
I was
friend.
gonna-
and
that
drop
was-
a little something
That was
in the
some-
offering plate.
That was some hellfire and brimstone.
I'm waiting for like snakes in hand. And,
It's like a
So that's what I had to get rid of to be in broadcasting. And when I first started at the station, the general manager said, "You will never go on the air here at WRAL."
That's why you were a photographer for a while.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right. But in the meantime, I went back to NC State and took some voice lessons and some coaching. And one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, I finally got cleared for the answering machine, where I could leave a message at in the sports office. Man, I was really gonna make it now, Mama. I'm in show business.
right,
I left
that's
a
right.
voice message
What's that?
on
When
the
you call,
answering machine.
that's me.
What's that scene on The Jerk with Steve Martin where he sees his name in the phone book? He's like, I'm somebody. Things are going to start happening to me now.
Exactly.
I love that scene.
Yeah. So, because I had to overcome that great accent that you just heard, and then finally I did, and progressed into being a reporter, and then. 1995, 10 years after I started, I got my first opportunity to sit on the anchor desk, and it was horrible. It was really horrible.
Really?
It was.
Really?
I still have it. as a frame of reference.
That's wild.
Yeah. We should all keep our early, if you had the earliest video you have of you punting or you entertaining in Magic, wouldn't you love to have that to compare where you are now as far as an entertainer and where you were in the NFL?
There's some older videos of Billy doing some
Yeah.
magic.
Really?
Yeah.
It's about
Like
15
6, 7
years.
years. But
No,
there's like some uploads that you
Yeah.
did. I'm like, man.
And you go back and look at them, you're like, whoa.
what the hell?
Dude,
I would
found a-
never hire me.
I found an old. My brother took all our home videos and converted them so you can watch them on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. We're watching videos from like '83.
Oh, wow.
I was born in '87, but there's a video of me saying, "I made a medal, ain't I, Mama?" I was like, "What the heck? I just made a medal," and I was talking about
Kiki ain't never been to Times Square.
Yeah, I was like, I guess I was acting like we just watched RoboCop. I was like 2 years old, but I was like, I just made a medal, and my brother's like, "No, you ain't," because he couldn't kill me. So I've come a long way.
You have,
Not
man.
One lesson.
No, see, some people are just naturally talented.
You just outgrow it.
Don't be, because then later on he'll be.
Let's use that clip.
These headphones are just gonna like flip off. My head's gonna keep getting bigger.
Bigger and bigger. The helmet's only so big.
But so you wanted to be involved in sports.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, when you have a dream or a vision or something, you'll do crap forever because you're so sold. Like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. So if I have to sweep the floor, if I have to photography, I can be a photographer. Like, I don't know shit. Like, just
Right.
take pictures. How hard can that be?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Right.
We've noticed that with a lot of successful people. Everything's figure outable.
Right.
I guess you could say.
When particularly sports photography for video, it's not stationary. It's a moving target that you're trying to capture, and it helped to have played. So when I would shoot a football game, I would try to call the play where I thought the ball was going to go, and I would try to position myself there to get the best shot where I thought what area of the field I thought the ball was going to go at. And so one of the most exciting games I ever covered was 1986 when NC State beat South Carolina on a Hail Mary pass. And you knew it was going to be a Hail Mary. So I
I'd have been filming the backfield. They're going to do a draw. Like, you moron! They're going to throw it.
I went to the back of the end zone, and sure enough, the receiver landed right in front of me and caught it for the game-winning touchdown. And it was one of those things where from then on, I'm like, I'm going to try to call the plays. I want to be able to go to a spot and figure it out. So I was thinking the game still, but yet I was also doing photography at the same time.
That's very interesting because it keeps your mind fresh in the game. And
that's right.
I mean, I would think if you're doing that, you would actually have to do study lessons on the game and where which option or what offense they're going to run, what defense they're going to run.
You're absolutely right, and how the quarterback throws the ball. Where does the ball come out of his hand the most? Are they over here? Are they up top? Yeah. Is it Brett Favre was a hard guy to shoot because he had a pump fake. He never knew where it was coming out. Dan Marino, to me, was easier to shoot because right before he threw the ball, he would pat it. It was like, pat, here it comes. And you just knew you timed it.
Brett Favre,
he's all over the place. And I can't imagine shooting Mahomes. That would be something amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I was able to do photography. And the crazy thing is that's kind of a full circle thing that I'm doing now. I'm still doing photography and not as much sports action.
Your career through WRAL, because we talked on the phone, and it was like a Wikipedia page that I was reading. The amount of things you've been able to be around just by being willing and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's figure it out. I mean, it's pretty fortunate to be in a good area, the Triangle.
Yeah.
There's the ACC basketball country. Everybody knows. It's kind of the Michael Jordan effect for North Carolina.
Yeah. So to me, it's one of the best states in America to be a part of a sports department as far as broadcasting. I mean, we'd come down to East Carolina and cover the Pirates. We were down there. We'd cover NASCAR. We would cover the Panthers. We'd cover hockey right there in Raleigh. But it was one of those things that when I left RAL in 2019, December 20th, 2019, they asked me to put together what are your top 5
You've
career
been there for
moments.
30 years at this point.
Over 30 years,
wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And I was like, I can't put together 5 of my most memorable things. So I tried to figure out kind of memorable things that I could mesh all into one. So you'd put 31 ACC tournaments and 19 Final Fours in there, and the chance to cover Mike Krzyzewski's first national championship and maybe his last. Covered Dean Smith's last national championship in 1993. Roy Williams' first and last national championship.
Roy Williams having vertigo on the sidelines.
Exactly.
Just random things like that, yeah.
It's crazy.
And not even talking about the amount of talent that's come through the schools. Just from Carolina State.
Just listen to those names you just said.
I know.
Coach K, I'm not even going to pronounce that last name.
So you do get an opportunity to see some of the greatest to ever play the game. To me, the Duke, the 91, 92, 93, when that Christian Laettner, Hurley, Grant Hill, I mean, those guys were just phenomenal. They were like the Beatles on a road show. When they would go on the road in the NCAA tournament, it was like the Beatles had shown up. I mean, people just camping out, by the bus or wherever they could get to go watch them. So that was a fun experience. But also too, you get personal experiences just by happenstance.
It gives you insane access.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And your job is to portray that as much as you can to your audience.
Yeah.
Bring them with you. Now, some things you can't share, and some things you see and you don't want to share. But there was one thing that there's really no visual evidence that it happened, but it did. And I promise you, I'm not lying. Michael Jordan was playing baseball, 1994. So they came, he was playing for the Birmingham Barons, and they came to Five County Stadium to play the Mudcats.
Carolina Mudcats.
So Michael had bought this $500,000 bus for the team to travel in, because, I mean, he's not going to, travel anything. But
minor leagues,
yeah.
An activity bus is like you had in middle school.
So
I borrow your bus.
That's right.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to show up Saturday to get the shot of the bus pulling in and Michael getting off the bus, and this will be awesome. Be the money shot. I get to the stadium like 6 hours before the game, and I go out toward the visitors' clubhouse, which was a trailer, and I see the groundskeeper. His name's Bill Riggin. He says, "What are you doing here so early?" I said, "Well, I'm going to get the shot of Jordan. The bus pulling in, Jordan gets off, money shot." He's like, "Well, you can get a shot of the bus coming in, but Jordan's already here." "Oh, really?" "Yeah. Well, where is he?" "He's in the clubhouse. He's icing his wrist that he hurt the night before." And I'm thinking, well, clubhouse is open to the media up to 2 hours before game time. What have I got to lose? I walk up there to the trailer, looking through that little 1 foot by 1 foot window, and there he is, sitting in there with an ice bag. Nobody else is in the clubhouse. Thinking, well, how many opportunities do you get? Put my $100,000 camera down outside in the 100-degree heat, open the door, and walk right in.
Wow.
Michael, how you doing, man? I'm Jeff from WRAL. Now, our long-standing anchor at RAL, sports anchor, was Tom Suter. And so Tom was there when Jordan was at Carolina. And so he goes, RAL, is Tom Suter still there? I'm like, yeah. He goes, did he ever get married? I'm like, yeah, he did. So I'm like, there's my connection.
I am in.
There's my in.
Gain rapport. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having this 20-minute conversation with Jordan and sitting there going, oh, my God, this is Michael Jordan. But then there was a part of me also that was like,
why isn't he wearing pants? This is so weird. Should I tell him?
I was like, part of me is like, look, we're the same age. We could have played each other in high school. We graduated the same year. And at the end, I said, Michael, could we do an interview? And he said, why do you want to interview me? I'm not even batting 200. I said, yeah, but that's Michael Jordan not batting 200. There are a lot of people that still care about you. He said, look, we'll do something after the game with all the media. And sure enough, he did. But that one stands out and sticks out in my mind as one of those, oh, my gosh, moments that I had to call home and tell Mama about that one.
He was in Moorhead pretty because they're fishing in the big
one. Right.
Yeah. And
when he's in an area, people just freak out.
There are certain people like that. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is, and it's, you hear all these stories about Jordan, not to get off on Jordan or anything, but you hear how rude he is to people. He's intense and he's this and that. But when he came here, I mean, he treated everyone like they were, hey, come on over here, you should see my boat, check out this, or, there's a video of him with this little kid, and they're just walking together, and he's having this great conversation with him, and that to me changed it because I was never a big Jordan fan. I mean, it's greatest of all time, but it's just never a big fan. But that changed my demeanor.
Play a game, but it kind of sucks.
Yeah,
I hate that guy.
Hate him.
But that changed my whole thought process about him. Just when you see him in person.
Well, we did a show on celebrity, and we say celebrity starts local. So even though it's kind of a local show, even though it's on the internet, you're going to get organic buzz first off. But you can gauge, I define being a celebrity as you can walk into a room unannounced and people recognize you, right? Someone's not handing out flyers like, hey, this is who this is. And this is their, Jordan, I don't know if there's any room. I mean, there might be some I guess there might be some inhabitants in the jungle that wouldn't know, but I bet I've seen so many documentaries of this is the first tribe. This is the first time this tribe's ever met outside person, and you look at one of the little kids in the tribes wearing a Michael Jordan shirt.
Exactly.
It's just he has crazy reach.
Yeah.
So with that being said, have you ever
could he come on the show?
Talk to someone? Can you
now
get
we
Jordan?
have this connection.
Yeah, right. If I could get Jordan on this show, that would be a miracle, beyond magic.
Is there someone that you didn't quite, I wouldn't say respect, but just had different thoughts about, and then you met him and it changed your thoughts?
Jordan. I mean, look, he was at Carolina when I was at NC State.
What was the press's opinion of him? Because the press painted him as an evil,
well, it depends. When he was at Carolina, he was beloved. When he got to Chicago and, Michael became Michael, there were a lot of people that didn't like him because he was a very private person. And he held a lot of things in. If you saw the 30 for 30 that they did, The Last Dance, you saw a lot of who Michael Jordan really was, and a lot of his teammates didn't like him, a lot of the media didn't like him, but I grew up, I went to NC State, was there in '83, and there's Jordan playing for North Carolina. Of course I didn't like Michael Jordan, but then when I got to know him and see a little bit different side of him, I didn't see the uniform, I saw the man.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoyed the most about my job. Was I got to meet so many great people. And to me, it did not matter what your uniform said. I love to get to know them as individuals, the coaches as individuals. So even though I went to East Carolina and NC State, I could cover Duke, I could cover North Carolina, I could cover anybody without, any kind of bias because I enjoyed meeting those people and getting to know them as people and trying to tell their story to an audience that really enjoyed them.
And being a former player yourself, even, played in college, you kind of look at them as peers a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's that's why I could never really get into commentating or something like that, where you have to be really judgmental or whatever. Because it's like, no, I get it. I would never do that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan. I'm a fan of sports. You know, not so much a fan of a certain team where I'm like blinded.
Yes.
Fan is short of fanatic.
And he's not even really a big NFL guy.
No, I mean, I'm more, I like players, like a big Aaron Rodgers fan.
Yeah.
I just could watch. I mean, it's just poetry in motion. But, yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, it humanizes it. But, so you went through WRAL, you had a ton of crazy experiences like that. Spent a ton of time in Raleigh. And I remember we talked on the phone a couple days ago. And you said, well, I spent 3 years in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm like, who the hell wants to go to Cleveland, Ohio? And he's like, funny you said that. So maybe talk about that. I mean, this is another thing. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was an opportunity for a good old Southern boy to try to find success in another city. So the options were Cleveland, Dallas, and Denver. And my wife says, I'll go anywhere but Cleveland. Where did we end up? Cleveland!
I love it.
It was awesome, though.
Guys, take note.
No, but it really, really was, because
it's a great sports town.
Great sports town.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to deal with general managers, agents, professional athletes, team presidents, as opposed to college athletic directors and college coaches, and it's a different game.
It's some big egos.
It is.
Yeah.
But also, when I got to Cleveland, there was a young fellow in his sophomore year at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School, playing football and basketball, named LeBron James.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, you know.
I think he'll have a decent career.
Do you think he'll do well?
He might win a few championships.
Yeah.
But we, at our station, had a connection to the family. It was basically LeBron and his mom. And we had a connection, and we were like, could we do a documentary going from the beginning of his football season to the end of his basketball season? And they were like, sure. So every now and then we would show up at football practice and we would do some interviews, and then we would go cover the games and
some B-roll.
Miss Gloria, the mom, allowed me to come over to their little 2-bedroom apartment. That was just, to me, it kind of told what kind of background he came from, because she had to give him up at one point because they got evicted from her house. He never knew his dad, and so he had to go live with another family. So they get back together as mom and son, and they're living in this little 2-bedroom apartment in Akron, Ohio. And then all of a sudden he becomes LeBron James. Well, we had already done our documentary, and it was just fascinating to get to go in LeBron's room that he, slept in, and you couldn't see any part of the wall because every inch of it was covered with pictures. Pictures of people that motivated him. Kobe, Michael, just Allen Iverson.
Matt Dodge.
He's like, I know there was this punter that played for East Carolina and the Giants.
This guy's going to have a one-year career.
Yeah. So it was just fascinating to watch, to follow that and get to do that.
What was the buzz like? Because I remember down here it was huge.
Well, when we first got a hold of him, so to speak, it was not that.
This is on his sophomore year?
Sophomore year.
First got there?
Yeah. Now, he was an all-state wide receiver.
Yeah.
Ohio State wanted him in football and basketball.
Yeah.
And so it was, pretty awesome to get to be on the kind of the ground floor, and then all of a sudden.
So it was like a local buzz there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we knew who he was. Everybody in the area.
This was early 2000s.
Yes, it was 2000.
I compare the buzz. Maybe it's like a Zion Williamson a couple years back.
Yeah.
Where he blew up on YouTube.
Right.
Before going to Duke. You imagine if that was around when LeBron was playing.
Oh, my gosh, I know. So then all of a sudden.
Watch him on like the ESPN games.
Well, so all of a sudden ESPN is going to televise his game against one of the locals. And the place was packed. And they would sometimes play in the same arena as the Cavaliers played in. Back then, the Cavaliers were horrible, unless the Lakers or the Celtics or Jordan came to town. But when LeBron's high school played in that arena, it was sold out.
Wow.
Sold out. And when Shaq and Kobe came to town to play for the Lakers, they would go watch LeBron's high school game.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was that he just continued to grow and grow and grow.
He was a man amongst boys. And I remember because he had these like paper on his arms. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because he had tattoos and they had to cover
The
it.
High School Athletic Association in Ohio would not let you have tattoos visible, so he had to cover them
Yeah,
up.
I
So,
thought he had like infantile or something.
No. He was
Get some
following the
poison
rules.
ivy?
Yeah, like he did.
Exactly.
Get some calamine lotion, maybe.
No, but that was amazing. And so,
What was he like when talking? I mean, so you talked to Michael Jordan, who Sports Illustrated said this is going to be the next Michael Jordan.
Right.
You know, what was he? Was he grounded? I remember watching.
yeah.
I remember watching
yeah.
a documentary. It was like him and a couple of his boys.
yeah,
But I think that was his senior year.
yeah, it was very grounded, very well spoken, and it was one of those things where when I was in his room, I looked under one of his dressers, and there were about 4 crates of mail that were down
Offers,
there,
yeah.
and I'm looking at the names. I'm like, oh, those are the recruiting letters. I said, LeBron, all those letters down there are recruiting letters, right? Yep. Are those colleges wasting their time? He's like, no, I may go to college and play basketball. I'm like, okay, well, give me your top 5. And so he pulled out the letters, and of course there was Ohio State.
Yeah.
There was West Virginia, there was Florida, there was Duke, and North Carolina. And so I was like,
It was pretty much Ohio State.
yeah,
That was his.
that
was his
still to
jam.
this day is a huge Ohio State fan.
But he loved Coach K.
Yeah.
And he got to play for Coach K for Team USA.
Olympics,
and that
yeah.
was very rewarding for him, and certainly was for Coach K, because at the time, when I saw the letters go on the bed, the next day I got in touch with Coach K, and I said, hey, Coach, I know you guys are recruiting this kid, LeBron James, but he just laid out the top 5 here, and, you were in the – he kind of laughed. He says, yeah, I know we're recruiting him, but he's not coming to college. He's going to the NBA.
going straight.
He's going to the
Did he
NBA.
sign a $100 million deal with Nike before even getting drafted?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I just remember him. They were interviewing him, and he was in a gym, and he just had this remote control Hummer, and he's just driving, and everybody's trying to ask him questions. He's like,
That's got to be such a weird time.
Yeah,
because
and
you're living in squalor essentially.
Yeah.
and then, but on top of that,
but
he got so
knowing
much.
The second that the money's available, it's mine.
Yeah.
It's like it's in a trust that I can't open for 2 years.
You got to look at it.
And when the Cavaliers drafted him, I'm like, I don't think that's a good thing. I'm like, this is a kid that's going to have everybody and his brother wanting something from him growing up in that area. But he handled it phenomenally up until the point where he said he was taking his talents to South Beach, which it's one of those things that I know he regrets. Not the decision to go, but how it was handled.
Yeah, I mean, think how tough that is. From 14 or 15, you're told you're a phenom. You can do no wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the little taste that I got. You're surrounded by yes men.
Yeah.
They're just, you can't, because they're all, and I mean, he signed a $100 million deal, so like.
Just a little more than yours.
Just, a couple digits and guarantees. And, but yeah, it's not going to create a healthy personality. Like so yeah, I could see, eventually that's going to.
So I don't like to hear people badmouth LeBron, because I kind of know where he came from and how he's kind of built his empire, so to speak. And I just admire him for that.
Well, that's what I was getting at with the Hummer, because the criticism from ESPN is like he was so standoffish and he was very rude to people. He was 17.
Exactly.
And having all these people in his face, he's never been through that. Give the kid a break.
Yeah.
Or he's been through that for a couple of years now.
Yeah, he's
It's
already
like
numb.
it's a
Yeah,
drag.
but just, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that bothered me too, and
Because fans can come off very entitled. I remember playing in the Senior Bowl with Tim Tebow, and everywhere we went, like this was in Alabama. Alabama just won the national championship, but it was just like people would come out from under the ground. Like they just would show up and get in a line wherever he was. And he took it very graciously, but I mean, I could see that being tough.
It's almost like when you put your fan hat on and you have somebody that you would love to meet, you're almost afraid to meet them because you don't know what it's going to be like with that experience.
Never meet your heroes, yeah.
Yeah, and I grew up a huge Cal Ripken fan. And
Senior?
Junior. Yeah.
Not that old.
No.
I love Roger Staubach.
Yeah, I remember him playing. But no, I was a huge Cal Ripken Jr. fan, and I got an opportunity to meet him one time, and I was petrified. I got a chance to interview him. He came to Raleigh for a USA Baseball thing, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I did, and he was great, and it was no scar tissue and everything like that, so it was okay.
Yeah,
they don't make them like him anymore.
No,
just pure iron.
That's how I was with Chipper Jones, man. Chipper Jones, he could have run for governor for the Southern United States.
Yeah,
or president.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We're coming back.
He did. Yeah. And
Chipper
when
Jones,
he was played for the Durham Bulls, that was one of my assignments, is to go interview Chipper Jones the first day he got to Durham. And you can YouTube and look for it on YouTube, and it's there. And it's interesting, when he retired, we ran some of that story on RAL that we had done when he was a rookie with the Durham Bulls. Well, he wasn't a rookie with the Bulls,
This was
but that
after
was
the voice lessons.
after the voice lessons, but not too far after the voice lessons, right?
The slang would slip in.
Oh, my
but
gosh.
in all due respect, though, you can't be from the Carolinas and not have a little twang. And when you're, I think it would
especially
be
when
almost,
when you're talking sports too.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
it's almost like a given. You have to. Have
That's
that.
true.
Have you guys seen the clip of Brian Kelly doing his press conference? And,
I'd like to thank my family.
it's like
Oh my gosh, that is
he's like worse than a politician when they just show up like, "Hey y'all!" And it's like, dude, you were born in Connecticut.
exactly
What are you talking about?
that
You
was
just
a
came
bad
from
that was a
Notre
bad
Dame.
optic. My family.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that doesn't work.
So
That doesn't work.
man, that's just. I'm sure when you sit and think, because it's your whole body of work. You were there for each of these things. We're seeing it, and we're living it now. It's amazing, but for you, it's all these experiences. I'm sure they just start flooding out. Like you mentioned, how do I get a top 5? You know?
Right, and I experienced them differently than a lot of people too. Like my assignment in 1999 at the U.S. Open I was a photographer at the event, and my assignment on Sunday was to follow Phil Mickelson and Payne Stewart for 18 holes, 1 through 18. And the way that whole day unfolded, and coming down 18, and then the putt that wins it, I mean, it was one of the most magnificent things I've ever witnessed in person. And, there were thousands of people around that green that day, and there were millions that watched. And I had a front row seat looking in my viewfinder, watching this guy make a putt. And it was just one of those things that I still get chills every time I see it or hear the call of the putt. It's just one of those things that you'll never forget. And then, I was playing golf the day that he died in the plane crash, and I just felt like it was a cruel irony that I'm on a golf course and I get a phone call that Payne Stewart had passed away in a plane crash.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's crazy how sports. It's entertainment. So I'm doing stuff now with former athletes, and it's amazing how big it is. Like it's one of the last places where it's a true meritocracy. Where it's the best players going to play. You can throw out all these quotas or whatever. We need to have this certain. No, the best are going to play, and I think that's why if it loses that purity, I think it's going to crash and burn. But it's amazing the impact athletes have. I can remember where I was when I found out Kobe died.
Oh gosh!
I was in shock. I would have, if you'd have told me before, hey, this would impact you that hard. I'm like, no, dude, I don't.
Yeah, well, and for me, because I'm a longtime Laker fan from the Worthy and the Kareem, that era, Kurt Rambis and all that. So the whole time I've been a Lakers fan from the Shaq and Kobe, and when I heard it, I was the same. I said, that's
right.
Who would say that? Who would tell a cruel joke like that?
Right.
Oh yeah, I checked. I did the ESPN app. I checked like 5 different news outlets just to okay, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
Like it could. It was just so weird.
I was in my carport doing some woodworking projects, and my phone rang, and it was Megan. And I actually had my TV on outside watching something. And Megan called. She goes, "Dad, did you hear about Kobe?" And I said, "No." And about that time, I looked up at the TV, and they had Kobe Bryant dead in a helicopter crash.
Yeah.
And it was soon after that we learned that his daughter was also in there. And the fact that my daughter called me to inform me about Kobe, it hit me hard for a lot of reasons. That you're right. We love watching these guys and gals, and they entertain us, but also too we get a connection with them.
Dang right.
And then when we lose them, it's hard. Dale Earnhardt, to this day, I have a hard time with the fact that Dale Earnhardt is not here.
It's been 21 years.
Raise hell, praise Dale.
Yeah.
No question. No question.
Yeah.
quick story about that.
Yeah, do you have any Earnhardt?
Oh yeah, we covered a lot of NASCAR. I was my cohort Bob Holliday and I went to a
turning
lot.
left. And they're turning left.
And they're turning left. Yeah, but it was really cool because back then you really had some access to the guys. And so 1990, what was the one race that Dale Earnhardt couldn't win? The Daytona 500.
Yeah.
1990, he's on the last lap, runs over a piece of bell housing, cuts a tire, and Derek Cope goes on to win the Daytona 500. Well, 2 weeks before that race, their PR person reached out to us and says, hey, Dale just bought this private plane, and we'd love to take you guys up in it if you wanted to do an interview with Dale flying around in his plane. Hello?
Well, let me check my schedule.
Yeah.
So I'll get back
I've
with
got a
you.
spin class. Sorry. Yeah, sure.
We got hot yoga that day. We can't do it.
They had no hot yoga in 1990.
I just didn't have AC.
That's right. So he runs over that bell housing and loses the race. And I called Bob and I said, Bob, we're not going on a plane flight with Dale Earnhardt. He's not going to do that. So we're supposed to leave from Rockingham, and his PR guy called the day before and says, you guys still a go? Yeah. So we showed up at 9 a.m. at Rockingham on the drag strip. That plane pulls in, and we get on the plane with Dale Earnhardt and fly around and do an interview with him.
Were you like, don't talk about that. Don't talk about the race. Don't talk about the race.
Well, that was the thing. I was like, that's the one question we're not going to bring up. He said, well, Sunday sure sucked, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right,
And
here
that
we
twang
go.
he had. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Sitting back there, and, you talk about a guy when he walks into an area that has an aura about him. Earnhardt.
Yeah, it's charisma, man.
Yeah.
It's weird because you see people they'll see. I think this happened maybe with the Red Sox or whatever. There was like a loss, and wasn't Johnny Damon was like at a bar having a food or a drink after a loss, and people were outraged. Like, how can you be in public after a loss? Like, people just take it way more seriously.
They forget they're human.
Yeah, they're just like, hey man, shit happened.
We see that on social media all the time now too. And
it's outrage culture.
It is. It really is, and it's hard to deal with because we had to deal with it being a person in the public, and I can only imagine what it would be like for a coach or a player that has to go through the scrutiny of somebody sitting in mama's basement throwing out some tweets and thinking they're funny and had never
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, had never played a game in their life, had never even put on a jock, wouldn't even know what a jock is, except for our main co-host here.
Now we do. You're welcome, America. We're educating.
Yeah, Earnhardt died at Daytona, right?
He sure did.
Hit the wall and
Sure
at
did.
Daytona. So.
Yep, he did in turn 4. And I was in Cleveland that time when it happened. And I'm like, nobody up here is going to know the significance of this. And I'm sitting there bawling like a baby in the newsroom when I saw it and heard about it. And I'm like, okay, you got to gather yourself and go on the air. And I did. And I was shocked at how many people in Cleveland, Ohio, felt the effect of the loss of Dale Earnhardt.
Sure.
It was amazing. He's one of those athletes. And yes, I think NASCAR drivers are athletes because you have to endure. You have to be in some semblance of shape.
I heard they lose anywhere from like 10 to 15
crazy.
pounds during a race.
You talk about hot yoga on a July afternoon sitting in a race car for 400 or 500 miles. That's hot yoga.
They should try podcasting. Holy shit.
Oh,
All these brain cells.
exactly.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. So you've been around a lot of these where 1990, I was 3 years old. So
That's what I was about to say. When we start doing dates and everything, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they're like, Matt, you remember back when, he told me one story. I was like, is that Wi-Fi back then? Wi-Fi?
What is didn't have computers.
We had cans with a little cord.
Exactly. And you know what? I love sharing those stories just to share an experience because I think all of us in life try to create experiences. And I've been able to experience so many, and I've tried to share them with so many people, whether it's on the air or off the air or in conversation, because I truly am flabbergasted by the amount of things that I've been able to witness personally and see personally in the friendships that I've been able to generate. This old Southern guy from Oxford, North Carolina, with a bad Southern twang.
Yeah.
Well, you've done pretty well from my point of view.
It's been amazing.
Forrest Gump got it.
I do have a question
Yep.
with all the greats that you've talked to and sat with. Is there one bit of advice that you got from any of them that's kind of like been your go-to, or
like was there a consistent trend? Like,
yeah, Coach K. Coach K has helped me along a lot. He is kind of a guy I've turned to and talked with and asked for advice. When I went to Cleveland, I asked Coach K, I said, Coach, I'm getting ready to take a deep dive here. I know nothing about Cleveland. What's your advice? He said, just be yourself. Be who you are. Don't try to be anybody else. I said, what if they don't?
Else is already taken.
That's right. I was like, what if they don't like it? He said, that's fine. Don't you change. You be who you are. And that's been one of the best pieces of advice that I took with me in 2000 and I keep with me today. Don't let things change who you are. And so I keep that in my pocket every day. And that's the best piece of advice I've gotten from someone that I've been able to cover.
Yeah.
He gave me some advice one time.
What?
Coach K.
Don't play basketball?
Be someone else.
No.
Try something else.
Be someone else. No, I was working at the Water Boggin in Emerald Isle. I was twirling, and he came up, and him and his family, I guess he's got 2 girls?
Yeah, 3.
3 girls,
Yeah.
okay. And they were going down, and he looked back at me, he goes, hey, don't go down this without a mat. It hurts.
When was this?
It had to be, I was 16, so that was
Billy
15
was like,
years ago. No.
Is this your car? He's like, just here with my family. Have a good one.
Because I was about to say,
It was like 90, 89.
Okay. So before his first national championship, and it was like his 9th or 10th year at Duke, and he's still taking the family to the water park. I think that's phenomenal. Don't think he's doing that anymore.
No, he can't help but coach everywhere he's at.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to be honest with you, I didn't know who he was. I mean, I watched.
So when did you realize?
When I went down, my manager was like, "Did you see Coach K up there?" I was like, "Hey, he told me not to go down without the mat."
He's full of shit, man. You can go so much faster without the mat.
Oh my goodness!
So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. So that's
Isn't that
my
something?
bit of advice from Coach K.
Wow,
That's wild.
that is awesome. But we all have those moments when we get an opportunity to sit or meet or get advice from, and there's yours.
Yeah, well, I was 16, dumb, and I was worried about the next chick that was coming up. Like, hey, look, moving like shoving little kids off the mountain. I was like, get off, kid. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah. No, so we've Megan actually kind of talked about this, and we have a little mantra: be great at what you're good at, right? Which is we all have kind of natural things that we're inclined towards. And Malcolm Gladwell talks about in Tipping Point the 10,000 hours it takes to be great, and sometimes people will hear that and they're like, well, I can just apply that to anything. And it's like, no, it's got to be something no one's going to do something 10,000 times unless they're in this is what they want to do anyways. Right. They do it for free. Being authentic kind of on that same vein. And Megan said something, it's a gradual chipping away of kind of the facade, I'm more Matt today than I've ever been. It's like the things that interest me 10, 15 years ago, that same kind of trends carry today. At what point did you figure out, hey, I'll surrender to it and just see where it takes me? Because a lot of times it's not a traditional like doctor or lawyer or something like a box that is portrayed. What point did you say like, all right, I'm all in on myself?
Well, and I think it's interesting if I were to compare my athletic career with my broadcasting career, they're very similar. And that I was pretty good at a lot of things, but I wasn't great at one thing. And so I was able to kind of do both and succeed in both in a way that I was fine with it. I could live with whatever outcome happened, whether I continued to play or didn't, or whether I continued to be in broadcasting or not. But, it's one of those things where you see some people that are just so talented in what they do, whether they're an athlete or whether they're a broadcaster or whether they're somebody like the Jock or magician. You know what I'm saying? And so
more the Jock.
More the magician.
And so I think it's something that we all wrestle with is to be the best that we can be. But what is that?
Yeah.
When do you reach that?
It's really like figuring out the areas in your life where you have the potential to be great.
Right.
It's not as simple. I don't care. I can give me the best mic and I can get voice lessons. I'm never going to sound like Frank Sinatra or Mariah Carey or something that they just open their mouth and it's like,
naturally gifted.
That's a thing. Like,
play to your strengths.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it is tough because you find out what you're great at or you're inclined to do. And then it's like, but I still got to make money. I still need to work. I still need to be productive. There isn't a help wanted sign, Matt Dodge position or Billy Collins position. So it's figuring out, okay, I really enjoy psychology and content creation. Where would that,
how can we mingle that together?
Life seems to be a lot of that.
Right. I think a lot of us have to figure out what the next step is in your life and when you're met with a decision to make. And in 2019, in June, management came to me, and I still had 2 years left on my contract. And they came to me and said, we're going to exercise our option to terminate your contract, and we're going to offer you a new contract with a pay cut. I'm like, wait a minute.
That sounds wonderful. Let's do that.
I've been here 30 years. Wait a minute.
Do I get to get rid of my benefits?
Exactly.
Yes. What?
I won the lottery.
So they basically gave me an offer I had to refuse. And the only reason I share that is, what do you do with something? What are you going to do about it? You go back to sitting in the baseball coach's office when he told me that my baseball career was over. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Are you going to sit around and sulk and gripe and complain, or are you going to go out and do something about it? And so I went out and did something about it and kind of recreated a new career at NC State in the athletics department. But basically, I'm doing what I did for 30 years. Telling stories, sharing stories, shooting stories, doing interviews, whatever I can. So I've been able to utilize what I gathered for 35 years and kind of recreate a new career. And it's been great for me. It's been better than I expected.
You mentioned on the phone you approached a couple different schools because the position you have right now, which this is so true, guys. If you're waiting for the perfect position to open up, we are creators by nature. You create a position.
Right.
That's how a lot of they get a fancy name and then they're all accepted. But
right. Like
talk about how you kind of did that.
I went to NC State, Duke, North Carolina, and the ACC network. I said, here's my plan. Here's my thought. I could be a correspondent. I could tell stories. Blah blah blah. Are you interested? The ACC network I never even got a call back from. North Carolina and Duke were interested, and NC State was willing to hire. And it was a creative position. A new AD, Boo Corrigan, came in, and he's like, I think we can do that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So we have content creators that do just videos or interviews without any voice, but this is a different thing that I can bring to the table. And so it's just worked out great. And being able to be inside of an athletics department, which Matt, how many things go on that, can't get out in the public. Lord knows you wouldn't want it out.
Right.
But there are some great stories to find, too. Matt, you got any skeletons in the closet in Greenville, North Carolina?
What did Mark Twain say? If you have too many skeletons in your closet, teach them how to dance.
He's got dance class tonight.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. But what is the LinkedIn official title that they gave you?
The title is, and when they told me, he said, yes, sir, you're going to be the director of content strategy. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Mom was impressed.
Way more official than what I was thinking.
Exactly. It looks good on the card.
Right.
But in a nutshell, it's storytelling. I'm kind of the university storyteller.
Yeah.
And it's just been great. It's worked out well. I've been able to feature some great athletes at NC State. I'm on the radio for the pregame show for football. I'll do co-hosting the men's basketball coach Kevin Keats and Dave Doran's radio shows and whatever they need me to do.
The Jock.
Yeah.
Podcast. I do have a podcast with Tony Haynes, Inside NC State Athletics podcast, and so it's just been one of those things where I don't have a time limit. I don't have to squeeze it in a minute 30 or 2 minutes. Whatever I have. It's a 9-minute interview, we go 9 minutes. If it's a 4.5-minute feature, we go 4.5 minutes.
Wow.
And so the shackles are no longer on there as far as a time limit, and that's something that's long-form storytelling is something that I really have always liked to do, and now I get an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome not to have those shackles, but for a lot of people that's intimidating because there is freedom within a system.
Right.
There's freedom, like time slots or being told what to do, when to show up. You spent 30 years, which you probably had some creative, showed up at a Michael Jordan was doing this, you know. So there were some organic times, but a lot of it too was probably on deadlines. And
Yes.
was that intimidating at all? Because
that deadline never moved.
right,
You know, you had to be there at 6:20, 10:20, and 11:20, or people at home would know.
yeah,
You know, and you know, you couldn't say, "Well, I'll do this tomorrow." No, it had to be done then.
Yeah.
There was a time where I didn't make it to the set on time.
yeah, no doubt.
And it was a track meet, and it was I have that dream still that I'm being called up to the set. Get up here! We gotta have you. Well, I haven't written anything. I haven't prepared anything. We need you.
Oh no, that was due today.
Oh gosh!
I still have dreams that I'm at a game and I left my cleats, and I'm like, it started. Don't go on WebMD and see what's wrong with you. Like
You're dying.
Matt, I still have
cancer of
this,
the brain.
I still have the dream that I get one more high school football game. I can visualize it running down the hill, the band's playing, I get the sidelines, and you're right. I don't have my cleats, I don't have my helmet.
Yep. And everybody's like, no, you're fine. Just come on. We got to do it. I'm like, no, I'm a punter. Like cleats, I don't need this helmet more than I need
You're
these
not a
cleats.
barefoot punter.
Yeah. So we're creative. We like creating content. And, you know, a couple months ago, really when we started doing this, I heard somebody say, hey, look, get addicted to your phone, but instead of just consuming content, start creating it. Mm-hmm. Now, and I posed this question to you when we were on the phone, but let's pretend you just graduated in the era of YouTube and all these free tools. What would be, because you went a traditional route, well, you went you went a route that was available then. It'd be a completely different route now. What would the first thing you would do if you knew, hey, I know I want to be around, still probably want to be involved in sports, but now I have all these tools. I mean, we're carrying around in our pockets like
You've got a production company right here.
You got a 1080p video camera now.
It's crazy.
Which 20 years ago, you couldn't get one of those you can carry around. So
No.
What would be your first step?
There are more avenues to deliver content now than there ever has been before.
There's more appetite to consume.
There is.
content.
There is. I mean, there are people that are sitting at home that have their phone and will edit videos and whatever, and they've been able to make a career out of it. There's one young lady that basically became an internet sensation, and then she was hired by the NFL Network, Annie Agar. I mean, she just basically did these funny videos of, quote, meetings between conferences and whatever, the NFL coaches and teams, and then all of a sudden she's hired.
Yeah.
And so there's an easy way. I tell people that want to get in the business, you can create your own content right now on your phone and your laptop.
Right.
And, you know, you can get it out there and people can consume it, and you never know who might be watching it.
Sure.
And so I think it's exciting that there are a lot more avenues you don't just have this one avenue that, well, you either have to go into newspaper, radio, or television. That's not the case anymore.
Or you don't have to put your dues in for 10 years before you can appear on camera.
No.
There's a much lower barrier to entry, which also means there's a lot more people doing it, but still the cream will rise to the top, every time. So I mean, would you just start doing
Our
that?
cream's still waiting. We're
Still in the trunk. Forgot to put it.
it's in the bottom of the barrel right now, but we're getting there.
But you would just start creating and seeing what stuck.
Absolutely. See what sticks.
Don't overcomplicate it.
No. Because people will be able to say, hey, that was pretty good, or I didn't think of that. Some people that want to get into sports, I say, okay, go in after a game and do kind of an analysis of what you thought of happened during the game and record it. Go back and look at it. Was it something decent? If so, post it. Create a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Put it on Twitter. Put it on whatever, and Instagram. And I just think we back in the day didn't have that ability. We had to go through professional channels.
Yeah, they're gatekeepers, yeah.
Yeah, and they were hard to get through.
Sure.
But now with a phone and a computer and a laptop or whatever, you can create a lot of good stuff. Now there's a lot of bad stuff out there too.
Sure.
I mean, you see it every day. But as consumers, we have the ability to go, no, not going to watch that. Or, no, that's pretty interesting. Let me see that again. And you know what? That person creates a following. It's like what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching or who's listening.
Sure.
Or if anybody's watching or listening. Right?
We've had videos where nobody's watching.
I'm just kidding.
Anybody out there?
I'm just kidding. So I think that's
it's
pretty
true.
cool.
It's true, though.
Pretty cool.
We talk about that. Like, if you don't have something to say to 0 subscribers, you're not going to have anything to say to 100,000 subscribers.
Right.
It's
But God, I would love to try.
Yeah, seriously. But like, don't overcomplicate it. If you like creating content, just start creating, because there's all kinds of content. There's written, there's just audio only, video. Figure out, because it is a lot of copy paste. You just figure out your process, and you have to do it long enough for the marketplace to take you seriously.
Did you guys start with a video podcast or an audio-only podcast?
Video.
Yeah.
So I don't even really consider this a pod. We don't even
Yeah,
upload
it's kind of, I don't know what it's really called.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do it where I was on film, on screen and Billy was off camera, just for optics.
Aesthetics, I guess.
Yeah,
But I own all the equipment, so.
Well, there you go. That's a negotiating point.
Yeah, we just started. We had one camera with I painted a wall in a back room, which I thought was the greatest thing ever.
We thought we were the shit.
Like, I varnished the table.
We were like, we have a camera.
We have arrived.
And it's, we look at people that have already made it, like the Joe Rogans and those guys, and they're on chapter 20, and it's like that's what people want. As John Maxwell said, people come up to me and say they want what I have, but they don't want to
do what I
they don't want to did what I did.
Yeah.
They want to do what I do. They don't want to did what I did. Yeah. And at some level, you have to actually enjoy it. Yeah, you're still probably on fire for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the day that goes out, that's when I know it's time to retire.
Yeah.
But I'm still got.
It feels like work. I mean, there's parts of it that feel like work, but.
Yeah. Or if you just lose the desire to continue to put in the effort to prepare. Right. And it's like a game. You hear coaches all the time say, hey, when I lose the desire to prepare, I know it's time to get out.
Right.
Because there's so much that goes into the preparation and everything else that, game day is, that's the fun part.
Sure.
Delivering the product is the fun part. But are you willing to put in the work that goes into it beforehand before you ever get to that great revelation?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's very. So in talking with you and seeing your path, your journey, the fruit didn't fall far from the tree. Your female son has pretty much gone through the same thing.
So brave.
I asked her a question when she
is so brave.
She is so brave. She thought mean. She almost killed Matt.
Really?
What was that? The story that she thought?
Because I was like, Megan, I'm married. Leave me alone. Like, what the hell? Just kidding. Now she was like, let's throw an orange. And,
right.
And girls. Anyways, yeah, she threw it really fast. So I'm like, Megan, I'm about to throw this as hard as I can and show no mercy.
And she probably went like,
yeah, that's right.
Is that all you got, punter?
That's my girl.
No, but the question is that when she hit the wall or a stumbling block, she had a little bit of downtime. Then she kind of turned the chapter. In your mind, because you have gone through those yourself, from not playing baseball, you kind of touched on it a little bit. But what's your mindset in that point? Are you down, or are you like, okay, well, here we go?
You allow yourself a little bit of time to be down. But then I think one of the greatest things is how do you get back up, dust yourself off, and move forward? It's hard. We all face that. Mm-hmm. In everything that we do, whether it's your job or your family or a marriage or anything. It's one of those things where it's not easy stuff, and you're going to have shortcomings and pitfalls and bumps in the road. But I admire people who are able to get up, figure it out, and go on and continue to succeed. And I appreciate people that do that, and I've tried to do that myself. Yeah. It's hard to do.
What's the alternative? Just
sit there and waller and
the rest of my life.
Yeah. Right, and it's hard. It is hard, but it's also very rewarding when you can sit there and look back over the canyon that you fell in and say, you know what, I made it to this side. I didn't stay down in the canyon. I was able to climb back up. And I think it's one of those things where, whether it's sports, whether it's work, whether it's your livelihood, whether it's your family, it's something that we all can take. And that's what I've tried to tell Megan. You're not gonna win every game. You're gonna lose. You're gonna have disappointments, but how do you respond to it? And I think that's one of the things that I've tried to instill in her, because that was what was instilled in me.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Kind of fell forward. Yeah, and you come to a point where you realize, like, man, that thing that I thought was so bad, that was necessary. Like, for me to get here, that's like, we talk about life happening for you instead of life happening to you. Sometimes shit happens, and you're like, how can this ever be to my? But that's where you have to have faith. Like, hey, this is part of it. I've found studying other successful people and seeing none of them have like, well, from day one, everything has worked out perfectly. I think Mark Cuban said, you just got to be right the last time.
Yeah.
that's the secret.
And that's why I admire LeBron so much.
Yeah, and you talked about that downtime, wallow time. I did that when I got a divorce. I was sitting with my brother, and I'm sitting there complaining. I'm like, I don't have a place to live. She's getting all the money. The kids are going to hate me. And he goes, my brother's not big on words. He goes, at least you're not dead. I'm like,
was that a framework that you could tell?
I was like, and oddly enough, because I've said it on here a couple times, I'm like, well, shit. Like, okay. It's basically his way of shut up and stop whining.
True.
You know?
Right. True. And you had somebody that could do that for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do it to ourselves. Will you quit complaining? You're sitting there shaving or whatever, and you just talk to yourself like, come on, man.
Well, I get it every day when I walk in the office.
Really?
I look at his face and he goes,
God.
what's wrong with you today?
Yeah. Like, dude, grow a pair.
Yeah.
But, man, we appreciate it, dude.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity, and, keep up the good work, man. I enjoyed it, and, the fact that now when I see you guys, I can say Magician and Jock. Do I have to call you by your real names, Billy and Matt, or
Your
Magic?
Highness will do.
Magic. Magic and
This is
Jock.
the Magic Mike. Yes.
It is. No, I had a good time, and like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And
I think we probably could talk for hours.
Yeah.
But then
People
I'm
are
pretty sure YouTube will be like, we're cutting you off.
That's right. We're hoping as the time goes on, we get higher quality guests.
Yeah.
So
Beggars can't be choosers.
That's true. Well, when you get better hosts, you can probably get better guests. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not offended by that. I'm felling forward. It's a stumbling. It'll be in my book.
This is my canyon.
That's right.
So, Jeff, thank you so much. This
Sure,
is
guys.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Guys, do us a big favor. Subscribe to the channel.
Smash the like button.
And we'll see you on the next video.
Peace.